So at this point we've arrived at the mixing stage, which is a challenging part and not the easiest one. And this is where things might get tricky because you don't want to lose the human element and the fact that you want to keep it a lively mix, but you also want to take out some of the unwanted frequencies and make sure that all the elements sit really well in the mix and don't really get in each other's way. But you need to keep the original vibe that we created on the board. So there's a few ways to move on from this point. I usually like to kind of isolate the drums and see how they sit. It's very fair. It's a very simple drum pattern and there's not a lot happening. There's no bass except from the kick, of course. The hi-hats sit nicely, the clap as well. So then I would add the bass line, because those things together, the drums, mainly the kick and the bass line, they form the foundation of the track, and that needs to sit really well. Not so much is needed here. The only thing I did is do a little bit of side chain compression, which means that every time the kick hits, it kind of like brings down the bass line a little bit. So the compression is on the bass line, and it means that the kick and the bass, because they're both bass instruments, they kind of get in each other's way. And in this way, you can really easily avoid having a clash of those two similar frequency instruments. So to move on to one of the more important parts of the track, which is the stab that everything started with. There's a lot happening there. There's filtering. I added a high-pass frequency filter as well for the break. So I want to take out the bass because you need some space for the pads to breathe as well. And I think at this point, I'm going to just see if the sound of the stab works well together with what we already have, which is the bass line and the drums. So I'm just dragging a EQ8 from Ableton. There's already one in there, as you can see, but that's a different kind of filtering that I'm using. So now what I'm doing is just trying to alternate the frequency a little bit and see if it fits perfectly in the mix. And I might take out a little bit of the low end, just to make sure that it's not filling up the space that is needed by the bass line as well. So then we have the stab 2, which is another main important part of the track. It kind of goes against the first stab. And it has a lot of frequencies all over the board. As you can see, I accentuated some of the higher ones. There's a lot of nice resonant type frequencies that I'd like to accentuate. I might take off a little bit of the low end, but it's not really necessary, to be honest. I think you also need to feel that this sound is adding some rhythm to the track. There's the pads. They do need a little bit of more presence, I felt, in the mid-range, so I've added that here. I think at this stage it's good to listen to the whole track to see if whatever changes I've made in isolation also work together as a whole. I think it sounds pretty good. I feel that the lead sound might be a little bit harsh, so in that case I would again just take in EQ, maybe take off a little bit of the highs. bring back some of the mids to make sure that the presence is still there. I think all in all, this sounds pretty good actually. What I have done too is put a little glue compressor on the master. This is something I like to do sometimes while making the track because it literally does what it says. It glues the whole track together. It's risky putting this on the master bus for a final version because it kind of creates like a fake energy, which might really be nice while making the track in the studio, but when you play it on the dance floor, it might simply be too much. So you have to be very careful with that. As you can see, it doesn't do so much. It's not doing too much. I might bring in a little bit more. I like to put it at a level where you just hear it a little bit and where it just brings things nicely together instead of just really taking out all the energy and make it a very flat track. I think in this case, where I'm really sticking mostly to using Ableton's audio processing, which is already at a very good standard, I'm just gonna use a limiter, which is within Ableton. As you can see, it's cutting a little bit, so I think this sounds pretty good like this. So I think at this stage we are pretty much done with the track, at least the first version, and the first version is always very important because it maintains most of the original character of a track. The danger of working more on this is that you're going to lose some of the edge, but you can also, of course, make it better. But I really prefer to use a version like this to play out for the first time in front of an audience and to see the reaction. So with this final mix, I believe we've managed to create a sound that is achieved by using just a few small enhancements or changes with Ableton equalization and compression. What also really helps is that the original parts are all made with synthesizers and plugins that really have their own space. There's not too much happening. There's not too many effects on all the different parts. Some of the modern synthesizer plugins have a lot of effects going on. So you press one button and you have like almost a whole track playing. These tracks, they all have their own character and don't do much more than just that. And if you mix them all together nicely, then there's not a whole lot that you need to do. I think if I would play this in a club, I think it would sound pretty good actually.